Hi, this is Liz, and welcome to my podcast, Spiritually Speaking with Liz. Just a little reminder before we start to subscribe on your podcast app, and you could always leave some comments if you like, or a review would be amazing. And also on the YouTube channel, again, if you like, subscribe, and if you tick the little notification bell in the corner, then I will, whenever I upload anything, you'll see it come up straight away. Okay, let's start. I've got another exciting guest. It just gets better and better, does this? I've got another exciting guest today and somebody I'm quite a big fan of, and I know you will be by the end of this. So we're joined by Tina Zion. So Tina is a fourth generation intuitive medium and international expert in medical intuition and mediumship. She's an award-winning author of 3 books and now focuses her time on teaching medical intuition and mediumship all over the world and including private mentoring sessions. So Tina, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, bless your heart for even having me. Thank you, Liz.
Oh, you're so welcome. So you cover so many areas. So medical intuition has been something I've been fascinated with for years. I was given the book Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Mace in early 2000, and that awoke me to the mind-body connection. I was a body worker and had been for a while, but hadn't connected the dots. So it's a real passion of mine, is what we're going to be talking about. But before we jump into that, I'm intrigued. What was it like growing up in your house? So, as a fourth generation intuitive medium, so who was it, your mother and your father? Yeah,
Yes.
I thought so. So, it must have been quite an incredible household to live in.
Well, we just thought it was normal, or at least we children thought it was so normal because we never had a class. We never spoke of it unless we received an intuitive piece of wisdom, or one of our deceased relatives came, and so we would share that with everybody. So it came through my mother's side and my father's side, actually,
Mm.
that my father, his parents, my grandparents, were very, very active in the spiritualist church here in this community. And on my mother's side, my great grandmother, I spent a lot of time with her until she passed when I was about 11 or 12. And she was actually very active in the spiritualist church and did card readings and mediumship and things like that. So it really came down through both sides. And I didn't even think about it until someone interviewed me a long time ago. And I thought, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it did come down through the family. But I want to make sure that everybody doesn't think I have a special gift, because all I had was an environment that you were expected to be intuitive and you were expected to be a medium, and no one even used those terms at all. So I really want everybody to hear I don't have a special gift at all. We're all wired to do this. Or I couldn't run around the world teaching it all over the place, because it's not a gift. It's we're wired and created to receive and live in the non-physical world as well.
So it must have, did you have friends round from school that would come in, and did that not make you think, oh, this is different, that's different to what they had in their household, or if you went to their houses?
Occasionally, we lived way out in the country, so there would be an entire summer where I wouldn't see another, child from my school or my grade or anything. But I noticed, and I was older before I really started noticing this, that other people didn't have these awarenesses. The other kids weren't talking about it like we openly talked about it in my family. And so I just kind of thought, well, maybe I better keep my mouth quiet. But I did notice, and I can't remember, gosh, I was probably 12 or 13 or 14 before I even noticed it.
I just love that. I think everybody, it's you say you're not special, and that's one of the things I love about your teachings, because I think you are special in the way that you bring it across, because I think you're very down to earth, very humble, very encouraging. And that's, I think that's so important because a lot of people, they want to be special, and so they make themselves special. And like you say, that anybody, well, anybody can do it, but we're all wired for it. It's just how we choose to train ourselves, isn't it?
Yes, and I always try to remember to say this. I think I really only teach people how to notice the very subtle that is the subtle world around us, and it's not as noticeable as a living person standing there in front of you. So I really hope to help people. I'm really driven to do this, by the way, to help people realize how extremely intuitive they already are. It's just a matter of noticing it, though. It is a matter of noticing.
That's what in your book, Becoming a Medical Intuitive. I can't say that tonight. Becoming a Medical Intuitive. There, there were two, well, there's lots of things that stand out, but one of them was um that you were saying how people are obsessed with seeing, that they want to see, they expect to see. And you were saying that when they expect to see, then they're so focused on that, they're losing all their other senses. They might be smelling something, they might be feeling something, but because they're so focused on the sight, they sort of discount that. And for me, that I don't know, what was that, about 7 years ago you wrote that, wasn't it? I think.
Probably around, I don't know. I don't know. I've lost track, probably maybe around 2014 or
Oh, was it
it's
long?
been a
Yeah,
while.
longer than that.
Yeah.
But I that to me was really poignant at that time, and because you do, I mean, I am quite visual and you do focus on that, but it made me sort of go from being in blinkers to
Hmm.
being full cinematic and panoramic, I should say, and seeing the whole and like, oh, okay, noticing other things that.
Yes.
And the other big thing that I credit you for is the word allow, how you say about how we allow things in our lives. And that was quite big for me reading that.
You just gave me goosebumps. When I get waves of goosebumps, especially down my legs, past my knees, it's always a sign to me that whoever I'm speaking with, that we're touching in with a deep truth. And that's how I know that I'm so touched by a deep truth that's actually happening. And my guides, again, even more recently, they are giving me that word, allow, 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 just so frequently, because when we allow, we're actually very, very in charge of what we do. We're very in charge of our life, much more than what most people realize. And to allow is, some people said, oh, you mean surrender. And I thought, well, I know I don't really mean surrender. I mean, allow and just to relax yourself, to be able to notice what's going on in the world around you. And the seeing thing, let me address that, because there's another layer to that,
Mhm.
that that most people discount anything else about seeing. What they discount is people who see something in their mind's eye. And I've seen this from all the countries I've taught in, and every place I have taught, is that if they see something in their mind's eye, they discount it. When apparently I'm pretty good at this. Apparently, is what people keep telling me, and I would say probably 75% I perceive in my mind's eye, because everybody thinks they should see, oh, like a deceased person, or see something going on in medical intuitive ways. They think they need to see everything with their eyes open. And really, I close my eyes so that I can perceive the energy field, really, of someone. And so I'll add that too. But you really touched me when you brought up the word allow.
Yeah, I think it's so important and something, I won't say simple, that's not the right word, but something it was something that was well, it was very profound to me when I read it. And when I brought that into my life, you forget, don't you, time to time, and I keep getting reminded to bring it back. But when I read it, it was really very strong, very poignant to me completely.
Well, it must be very important because I don't, you and I can't even figure out what year that was, but even more recently, here I would say in the last 6 months, have brought that word forward again for me to talk about. And here you brought it up. So look how intuitive you are. I'm guided to bring that word up, and you did it before I even thought about it yet. So bless your heart.
So on to the intuition. Um, well, let's dive in. So can you explain to people that don't know what exactly is medical intuition?
Well, I have found that it's much broader in my sense of it than what it is in other people's sense of it. Medical intuition is not just medical as the physical body, although that's a huge part of it, but it's also the awareness of our thoughts and emotions. It's beyond just the energy field and the physical body. It's how we're living our life. I will look at a negative patterns in our lives that keep repeating. Well, if a negative pattern keeps repeating in our life, it's simply a signal that we need to learn something very, very deep about that. And then the negative pattern will fall away. And, I'm an example of that. And so that's one of the things that I teach. It's also about ancestors, our environment. And so it's really every single thing about the a human being that is either going very, very well or that they're struggling with. So I see it as life struggles, but also possibly a struggle that is showing up in the physical body. So I include everything in it really basically.
And how did you start with it? How did it come to you?
Hmm. Um, well, the intuitive part was, again, the normal part,
Mhm.
but I'm a mental health counselor too in private practice for many years. And back in, I think it was 1990 or 91, I took a Reiki course and I loved it. And I was doing a lot of Reiki and I took it to the third degree and I was teaching it and things like that. So I was doing a lot of Reiki. See, I'm even showing my hands here. I was doing a lot of Reiki sessions. And one day and I had my hands on the person, and I was suddenly in my mind's eye seeing movement. I was seeing dark things. I was seeing like a tube. And I thought, what is happening? And I was real steady, though I didn't want to alert the person or alarm the person. But all these visions were coming into my mind's eye. And so I just asked my guides, I said, what is happening? What is happening? And they said that I'm looking into the physical body. And the very first time this happened, I was actually inside of someone's colon and their large intestine. And after that happened, I was in a lot of people's colons and intestines too. So, uh, and I actually, the rest of the story is I was zooming around in her colon, and there suddenly was a group of black bumps, and it was cancer. And so I took note of the location. I like to talk to people about when you notice these things in a physical body, make sure you notice where the location is that is coming up. And so I back then I was drawing pictures on a little human form with my colored markers and things, and so I told her that, and I knew it was cancer, but and I'll tell everybody this: unless you're licensed to diagnose, we intuitives can describe it, but we don't ever use the word that is a diagnostic word because that will always possibly get us in trouble. So I drew it, showed her where exactly it was in her intestine, and I literally said, I insist that you call your doctor today and ask for a colonoscopy. And I said, because it's just thick there. It's kind of dark. It's not bright like the rest of you. And it seems like the energy's not moving. So see, I described all these details about it without saying cancer. And and she came back with me to me and she said that's exactly what they found and exactly the location. I was amazed. I was just amazed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That must be quite difficult then, and that's something you always emphasize, isn't it? That you can't diagnose. I mean, you're a registered nurse, aren't you? That was one of your original
Yes.
trainings, and then you've gone on to specialize further down the line. But even as a
Right.
nurse, you can't claim anything like that. So you always say to describe, like you say, describe the area and describe what you're seeing, and as opposed to saying,
Yes.
like
Mhm.
black mass or, just making it softer with the wording, but just hopefully then the person can do something about it if it's like that lady needed to go to the doctors.
Yes, and the other thing that I would say here, and I don't usually bring this up, but it's really it's not about doing holistic treatments without Western medicine. At least in my opinion, it's about combining the two equally important. And so, I have sent many people to the emergency room from my office. I've sent, asked them to call their doctor and ask for certain medical tests and things like that. And also, the more confident that people get about doing this level of work, that you will get so much validation. It's hard to believe because I will get something about, well, this person is very low in a certain vitamin, or very low in magnesium or something like this. And here's the validation. People will say, oh yes, I just got a lab test about that, and that's exactly what showed on the lab test. I thought, oh wow, this stuff is really real. I used to, long time ago, think, wow, this is real. Okay, that's very real.
So how, from the first experience then, so with the lady with the polyps in the colon, how did you progress it then?
Oh, I don't think anyone's ever asked me that. How did I progress it? I started to do more drawings. And I still have that same little human form that shows the front of a human and the back of the human. And I would just draw what I received. And if I received a message from their guide or something, or I would try to draw a little guide image and put the exact words down, things like that. And so the more I did this, I thought, well, maybe I should just do this, and we'll do Reiki also if someone wants the Reiki. But and it's really a transition. Many people think they have to stop doing whatever they do for a living to do this. And I'd say, well, if you have lots of money set aside, sure, maybe you can do that. But I would ask people to transition. So, see, I went from psychiatric nurse was my board specialty, and I worked 13 years in psychiatric units in hospitals, hardcore psychiatric units. And then I went on with my education and was a counselor in private practice. And I then did my Reiki. And so allow the natural transition to happen. And the more I received all this validation, I thought, I need to do this. This is what I'm guided to do now. And so um, I would still keep up my counseling somewhat, but I gave people choices then. So I didn't stop one thing to do another. I just let it naturally transition. No one's ever asked me that, so thank you.
You're welcome. And I think that transition is very, so having the medical training, you know what you're looking at. Having the counseling, you know how to help people with how to wording it properly. Having the psychiatric, if anybody's got the, emotional, mental issues. So there's a lot of strings that were prepared in your bow first, weren't they, before the medical intuition came in?
Yes, I think so. And but I would also say that no matter what, everyone that's listening to the two of us, that no matter what your background has been, if you're guided to bring in intuitive wisdom more and more into your personal life or for others, that realize that no matter what we've done in the past is always somehow a foundation that leads to this. And I really want to emphasize that because some people will say, well, I'm I don't know, a secretary or something for a big corporation. Well, but you interact with people in very sincere ways. You interact with very complicated things. So, whatever the listeners' backgrounds are right now, just notice how it is a foundation for you doing this work if you're pulled to do this work.
Or any work, I suppose. Whatever you're drawn to is always, I think we're always the accumulation of our past, aren't we? Everything seems to line up when you find what you enjoy doing. And you think, oh,
Yes, and if we allow it too,
hmm,
allow ourselves to notice it. Yes.
yeah, that's so true. So can you share with us, obviously there's a confidentiality, so you can't name names or anything, but can you give us some examples of some people that you've worked on with the medical intuition and how it's helped?
Hmm. My goodness, yes. I have come across, you have to be ready for people to say, no, that didn't happen. And, and I'll say, okay, well, this is what I'm getting. So I don't, what do I say? I don't adjust something if the living client can't find it in their mind. So this woman that's coming up, I haven't talked about her for quite a long time. She had a place right here on top of her head that had bubbles in her energy field. And bubbles are sometimes it's bubbles, like just a line of bubbles. And sometimes it looks like a garden hose gushing out. And I told her that I'm perceiving that. And I said, it's from an injury and it has left that physical trauma has left an opening in your energy field, kind of like a boo-boo, kind of like a sore or something. And she looked perplexed and she said, no, no, I haven't had any injury there on my, that on my head. And I said, well, let's attend to it. And I called in my healers and I told her what was happening and what it looked like as they were like sewing it up and the leak stopped. 20 minutes after that, about 20 minutes after that, she said, wait a minute. I work in a factory. I raised up underneath the machine that I work on. And she said, I had a huge gash in my head. She said I was covered with blood. But see, she couldn't find it. So I would tell everybody, if you get something that feels very, very correct, stick with that. You don't have to make them try to find it, but stick with it because see, I said, well, I want you to think about this and it's fine now. And here she is, she remembered it. And another person came to me and had a frozen shoulder. And I had never come across that before. And so I asked my guides, and one of the things I like to say is you can't make these things up. You just can't make this stuff up. And so this beautiful, very feminine hand came from like an opening in the air and with the like the angel's fingertips, she made like a cut here, and I just watched, and I told the client what was happening, and she reached in and pulled out. It looked like a gristle from a meat, something like that, and and then a beautiful golden thread, and she sewed that back up. And so my client, when that was, I said, okay, I think we're complete now with that. And I said, just check your shoulder. And she, started to move it. And then she started to move her hand, her arm all over. I said, oh, don't do that. But she could move her shoulder. So something happened. And I worked with a very, very, very famous intuitive, and he asked me to do medical intuition with him. And um, as I was working with him, I saw that same gristles kind of material lift out of him in all these different places, from his back, his legs, his arms. Uh, and I told him about that, and he said that makes total sense. And I didn't ask him, why that made sense, but they just started like lifting up out of his body. And oh my goodness, I'm trying to think of some others examples. Um, broken toes, and the person said, "Oh no, my toe's not broken. It's kind of sore." And then it got worse, and she got an X-ray, and it was broken right where I said. And so, what's important about this is just very, very naturally, if you're wondering if you're accurate, you will start getting all this validation from people, and it'll be from X-rays or CT scans or MRIs, things like that, that you will get all kinds of validation about that. I have found cancer in a person's brain, and I did not say cancer, but she, I told her I was seeing some dark, and she said, Tina, I already know that I have cancer in my brain. And she said, I'm not supposed to live much longer. And I was getting that also. I just wouldn't have said that to her.
Yes.
So, I guess I can go on and on and on. But what I think is important to know is if you really listen to your clients, you will get all kinds of confirmation of how real this is and how real our abilities are.
One of the things that I liked that you speak about is that when something comes through, not so much like a physical part that you're seeing, like I can't remember the exact story, but in your book there was you were with a lady and you were seeing a snake behind her head.
Oh, yes.
And like
I
you,
was very new at this then. Yes.
but like then you were saying, rather than thinking snake, snake, okay, what does that mean? You just say, I am seeing a snake behind
Yes.
you. And then it made sense to the lady.
Yes. Yes. Um, People, when they're new to this and they're yearning to do this level of work, they'll say, well, what does all these things mean? How do I interpret it? And I beg people, we don't interpret ever. We simply describe what we are perceiving. And when we interpret, we're actually putting our thoughts about it. And it has, we should keep ourselves, our own personal self, out of the equation, basically. And I love that story. I haven't thought about that for a long time. This snake that rose up from her, I was terrified, number one, because it was this massive snake coming up from behind her. And it was an intuitive snake, by the way. It wasn't, in the physical level. And I didn't mention it because I was so new, and I thought, oh, that will terrify her. She will think I'm nuts, all kinds of things. And right after I decided not to mention it, she says, oh, Tina, I forgot to tell you how important snakes are to me. Now, see, if I would have told her, oh, yeah, I just saw a snake, she probably wouldn't have believed me. So from that, I learned to always describe whatever happens, whatever you get. And that has happened with a woman with wolves were coming and showing themselves to me, and I said that to her as another good example. And I was more advanced in this then. And I told her about the wolves kept coming to me, different wolves. And she said that wolves, oh, she just lit up. And she said, oh, wolves are very, very important to me. I have them tattooed all over my back. So,
Oh,
and I didn't know that, I didn't know it. So, yeah, so it's amazing. And if your listeners choose to go into this, they will never be bored. They won't be bored.
there's a massive element of trust, isn't there?
Massive,
Trust in
yeah.
yourself and trust in your team.
Yes, yes. I love that you brought that up. That if it shows up or pops in out of nowhere, so it could be a word or an image or a little movie or something like this, that I learned kind of the hard way to state it out loud to the client. And if it just pops in out of nowhere, if your listeners will take it as deep truth and trust it, then everything that pops in for me, I trust it without question. And that trust, it like opened up a whole new highway, a new avenue of information coming in. So I think trust, everything that we think of, feel is an electrical signal. So the word trust is smooth and wide open, and the more you trust it, the more accurate you will be, the more fluid it will be, and the faster the information will come in.
What advice, what tip could you give to people to learn to trust themselves more?
Hmm. Oh, that's a big one. I would ask again to notice what leaps into your mind. So some people will say that they're standing in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup or something, and someone who's deceased, their name will just pop into their head, and they'll say, gosh, I just wish, that I was a medium, and I just wish that, that was true. Well, that is true. If you see, if you're fixing dinner, stirring the soup, you were not looking to searching for that person. That person's name just leaped into your mind out of nowhere. I'm using this as an example that happened for someone that I know last week. And she didn't realize that her husband was coming in trying to communicate with her. And she just thought, I'm just keep thinking about him. But no, if you're doing something else and it pops in out of nowhere, that's that means that they're there. That's one of their signals of a deceased person. Is one of their signals. So again, simply notice the pop. And I say that word a lot. That one of my clients actually made a bumper sticker to stick on the back of the car that says "Always take the pop." I have a bumper sticker now. I know, it's funny.
Oh, that is funny. So so this is a big question, I know, but how, like I said to you, it was reading about medical intuition that made me see, even as a body worker, that there is a connection between the emotional side and the physical side of us. So emotions can create illnesses. How
Yes.
how can you, because people still don't believe that. And I know when I didn't believe that, I used to look at people like they'd grown an extra head and think, really? And now I can see people doing that to me. When they say, oh, I've had this terrible tummy ache for ages, and I'm saying, well, what can't you digest? What are you struggling with? Or, this kind of thing. And they just look at you like, you crazy lady. So when did that come in for you? Did that come in younger, linked with the mediumship, or did that come in later on?
I would say later on that I noticed, and so I, drew it and things like that and put it in one of my books, that I kept noticing certain emotions uh, would congregate or build up in certain places in a person's body. So I always just I'm noticing. So I would ask everybody just begin to notice everything that comes in, pops into your awareness. So, for in your example, there above our belly button is the solar plexus. And one of my stories is a woman had, I saw, she didn't tell me, thank goodness, that I perceived it, an ulcer in her stomach lining. And so I can't say the word ulcer, but I described it. I said, you have an open kind of a raw area. It's about, this size, things like that. And I said, what is eating away at you? And she burst into tears and said, um, and I also said, you've lost your power, because the solar plexus is about our power center as an individual. And so if you think about that and put all the parts together, and there is a raw opening, she has raw emotions. She feels like she's not herself because of that area. And when she could control her crying, she started to say, how'd she put it? She said, I am an engineer, but my father wanted me to be. This woman actually said, I am truly an artist. And she said, my father wouldn't let me go to art school because I wouldn't make any money.
Oh,
And she said, so I'm an engineer. So I didn't tell her those things. I just described to her what I was perceiving. And I said, what is eating away? Because an ulcer is something's eating away. And so your example was perfect to bring that up. Um, and people will know exactly what you mean. In fact, when you said you've said things to people and they think you're, off track or weird or something, I would say the look on their faces, they're more surprised at how accurate you are.
yeah, I think sometimes that's true. It's like somebody's been called out, isn't it? And then they just have that
They're surprised, like,
look.
yeah,
Yeah.
how did you know that? How did you know that? So to answer more of that question, I started to notice that, like, shoulders, some of the phrases, at least in the English language, would be, he carries the weight of the world on his shoulders. We have phrases.
Hmm.
And I love talking about those too. We have phrases that are actually describing that thought and emotion and physical body connected together. And so I love talking about that, because it is very accurate and very true. And different emotions will tend to become, the more we think negatively, and the more we think negatively in certain ways, we will tend to become, um, not, unwell in those areas.
It
It
really is.
builds in density, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, is it like the energy builds and then becomes sort of like sticky or
Yes, has more density, and yes, sticky, because especially negative emotions, especially jealousy, hatred, things like this, or even dislike, um, tend to be slower moving, because everything's electric, everything's energy. So those negative emotions tend to be dense, sticky, like you said, and then they tend to start uh, congregating in certain places in our bodies. Yes, it's like many people have low back pain. They'll
Mhm.
talk about that, and that low back area is all about our childhood, but it's also about uh, the sense of security or not having a sense of security. So money issues tends to show up in the low back. So yes, and so I just started noticing that, and I started to, just kind of jot it down what I noticed, and then I, end up putting it in a book somewhere.
That's fabulous, though, how you just naturally, again, we say the word flowed with it, allowed it, and it just came in, and the knowledge built rather than I need to go learn this, I need to go learn that. It just naturally came in.
Mm, yes, yes. There was a nurses association here in the US, and they asked me to speak at one of their big conventions, and I said, "Yeah, sure, absolutely." And they had many, many forms for me to fill out before I did that talk. And one of the forms was they wanted to know all of my training, where did I train as a medical intuitive, and who trained me, and things like that. And I just put on that one line on that whole big form, no one trained me, I just noticed. I just know, I just noticed. They didn't, they
That's
didn't know what to do with this. I don't think I've ever brought that up before.
that's fantastic. I love that.
I know. But I got to thinking, I thought, oh, no, I haven't. No, I guess I haven't been trained.
That's really made me laugh,
Yeah,
is that? I love that. On a big form, I just noticed.
I just noticed.
Oh, you do make me
Very
laugh.
official form.
Fantastic. So, Tina, before we go, it's a biggest question, but I just wanted to ask, I want you to tell it. I don't want to say, because again, it was something that I heard you say it, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been feeling and I've been knowing. And I want you
Uh,
to say, and it was, you spoke about doing a reading on a lady that had like this sticky bubble over her, and it was a protective bubble. And then can you tell us about your take on protection and how
you
people should
have
protect?
you have the most wonderful questions. So thoughtful. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for that. Um, Sometimes and I don't do readings and healings now because my focus is to teach other people how to do this. So, well, my guides told me I had to do this. I teach people, and then this will have a greater expanse, all over the world. But when I was doing the readings and healings, occasionally there would be a person, and back in these days, these were on the phone, so it was before computers and Zoom and all that. And every once in a while, even I'm sitting here on the phone with someone, and I said, "Okay, let's begin." And I would stretch out towards the just the sound of their voice and their name. I didn't even know most of the time where they were located, and I would come across this thick gray, kind of sticky, uh, gray stuff. And so I would kind of try to kind of push through it there. And most of the time I couldn't do it. And I asked my guides, what is this? They said protection. And I said, but is it positive? And they said, absolutely not. And so I told the client the first time I saw this, and I said, "Do you protect yourself a lot?" And she was just delighted. "Oh yes, I protect all the time." And I said, "Are you putting things around you to protect you?" "Oh yes." And she described all the stuff she was, you know, energetically putting around herself. And I said, "But what I'm getting is that you do it mostly when you're afraid. Is that correct? And she said, yes, you're right. And I said, well, what is building up? What my guides are telling me is the fear. So it's not really a protection that's building up around you, it's the energy of fear. And so I love talking about this in particular. Thank you for bringing it up. Um, and so what I've learned is to become, we're like a light bulb. And I ask people to, if we look at a light bulb, the light is inside and it's so bright it shines out in all directions through the glass of the light bulb.
Mhm.
And so I hope to tell people that our greatest protection is to be the brightest light, not to put something around us, but to get brilliant, brilliant brightness so that we shine out in all directions. And so I hope that helps some people. And don't do it just when you're afraid, be the brightest light as often and as much as you can.
I love that because I've always felt that the word protection is
Hmm.
a fearful thing. And when you said that, and
Ah,
the light, I just thought I just love that. And just before you go, and we will finish, I promise, but just before you go, can
oh
you,
no, I'm having a great time.
I'd be here all night, so can you just, like in a couple of minutes, go through, because I love this. And I was just reminded of it the last week when I was thinking about us chatting about what you say about bringing in the rainbow up through the feet.
Um, yes. So, do you want me to describe the
Yes,
steps to
please.
it? Is that okay? Bless your heart. Well, it's part of we humans are actually a toroidal field, and toroid means that it's a spinning, it's a moving, it is a field of aliveness with us. So, I and if you notice, we humans, the ancient Eastern people already knew about this, the colors of the energy centers, the chakras. But if you look at it, it's really a rainbow. So we're actually uh, rainbows, we humans. I
Mhm.
love saying that. So I ask people, and I can walk everyone through this here for just a moment, that if you imagine, and the part of this is grounding too. Everybody's trying to ground all the time, but this is grounding. That from the earth, you bring up the energy of red, and all you have to do is think it, and the energy will happen, and the energy of red will follow. And so you inhale and just pretend and imagine you're inhaling from deep down inside the earth. And you inhale up through the soles of your feet, this beautiful, beautiful red vibration. And just inhale it. And very quickly it'll just surge up through your physical body. And then I ask you to just think it and imagine that the color of orange just comes up from the depths of the earth into the soles of your feet. And every time you inhale, that orange just rushes up and fills every single cell of your being. And then, if you would, imagine and think that you're inhaling yellow, the brilliant, brilliant yellow of the sun, deep from the earth into your feet, and you just brilliant, brilliant yellow. And then shift to the most beautiful color of green, the most beautiful shade of green. So you bring that And inhale that from the earth into the bottoms of your feet and let it rush through your physical body. And then the vibration and the color of blue. It's like a royal blue. Just inhale blue up through the soles of your feet from the earth. Just think it and allow it just to rush through every cell of who you are. And some of you might already notice that the different colors even feel different as you do it. So in comes the blue. And then the most beautiful shade of rich, rich purple. And inhale that up into you. And then brilliant white with a crown of who you are and who you're meant to be. Inhale white into your body. You're all these vibrations and all these colors, and every single color is more than a color. It is actually a very particular healing vibration. So you're healing yourself in all kinds of ways as we do this together. Now I ask that you imagine and think that you are so full of all of these colors that you just allow your fullness just to shoot up into the heavens, up into the universe and the cosmos. And the universe notices us in a different way, notices that brilliant light that we've become, and the universe matches that and gives back to us. It rains back down into our physical body, our energy field, and it gives back to our body and back down into the earth. Just allow that to happen. Allow yourself to receive. This is all about receiving. And back into the earth, and the earth receives, and then it begins all over again. We bring up and inhale each and every color. So the true grounding that the toroidal field that we're doing is coming up and filling up into the universe giving back to us and giving back to the earth, and then all that earth energy and all those colors come back up through the soles of our feet. We ask everyone to notice this as giving yourself a blessing.
Oh, that was beautiful. Thank you. I shall have to make
Thank you. I was really feeling it too as
too.
we were doing it together.
Make it into a little YouTube short so people can experience just that. So they can.
Oh, yes, please. Yes, that'd be great.
I will do that.
That's good.
Tina, thank you so much for joining me. I've enjoyed every minute. I absolutely have. You've been a pleasure to have on. And I will put all Tina's details in the show notes below. And Tina has got a special gift for you as well, which I shall put the link to below. And it is for 15 insights to trust and understand your intuition. So that'll be below, and you can just click on over to that and check out her website as well if you like. And any other details I'll put in the show notes. So, Tina, thank you for joining me. I'm truly blessed that you've been with us today. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in and for listening. And I'll be back again soon with another great guest. Thank you. Bye.